You don't remember the exact temperature the morning you start. You remember that it is cold, not dramatically cold, not the kind of cold that announces itself, the kind that simply settles into the joints, into the cartilage, into the slow, deliberate breath you take before you push open the glass door. The lobby smells like recycled air and fresh carpet adhesive. A badge is handed to you, laminated, temporary, the word visitor printed in red across the top. You will wear this word for 37 days before anyone replaces it with your actual name. Your desk is a 60 by 30-inch rectangle of compressed particle board, gray, in a row of 6 identical desks. The monitor is older than it should be. The chair adjusts, but only barely. The fluorescent strip above you flickers once every 11 seconds. You count it eventually because there is nothing else to calibrate your time against. No one introduces themselves with warmth. They introduce themselves with function. I'm the one who handles the invoices. I'm the one you'll report to until Hendrix gets back. I'm the one you should not call after 5. You nod. You smile. You do not ask where Hendrix is. The first week is about learning where things are. The second week is about learning what things are called. The third week is about learning that what things are called and what things actually are rarely the same. You are 26, or 31, or 24. The age doesn't matter. What matters is that you are new, and newness here is not celebrated. It is tolerated. You are a variable the system has not yet fully accounted for. You sit, you type, you learn to eat lunch in 19 minutes because 23 minutes draws looks. You learn that the printer on the left jams on anything above 68 pages, and that reporting this is considered a personality flaw. You fix it yourself, quietly, and say nothing. By week 5, the fluorescent strip no longer bothers you. By week 8, you no longer notice it at all. The first promotion takes 14 months. It is not presented as a celebration, it is presented as a reallocation. Your job title changes from coordinator to senior coordinator, which means your responsibilities expand by roughly 40% and your salary increases by 7. You sign the offer letter on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, it is already forgotten, filed somewhere in a system you don't have access to. Your new responsibilities include supervising 2 people who were there before you. One of them is 43 years old and has been doing this job since before you graduated. You call a brief meeting. You speak carefully. Nothing is said directly, but everything is communicated. You are now technically above them. Both of you understand what this means. Neither of you acknowledges it. You start staying until 6:45, then 7:30, then on Thursdays sometimes past 9. You frame this to yourself as investment, ownership, the language of ambition, but what it actually is visibility. You are staying because someone with the authority to remember you might walk past and notice that your light is still on. The second promotion comes 22 months later. This time you manage 6 people and a budget of $340,000, which sounds significant until you understand that $290,000 of it is already allocated before the fiscal year begins, and that the remaining $50,000 exists primarily to absorb the consequences of decisions made by people 3 floors above you. You approve things you would not have approved 2 years ago, not because you've changed your beliefs, you haven't, not yet, but because the architecture of the system has gradually made disapproval more expensive than compliance. You approve a vendor contract you know is overpriced because the alternative is a 4-month delay and a meeting with the director that your manager has made clear he would rather not have. You approve it. You write a memo. The memo is not read. You begin to understand. The system does not reward correctness. It rewards frictionlessness. The third promotion at year 5 comes with an office. Not a good office, a glass-walled room overlooking the open floor where the blinds don't fully close on the left side, so you are always partially visible, always slightly on display. But it is an office. You put one thing on your desk, a small, practical clock. You do not hang anything on the wall. People who hang things on walls, you have noticed, tend to become attached to the room. You do not intend to become attached to the room. By year 6, you have learned to speak in the passive voice in all documentation. Mistakes are made, resources were allocated, decisions were reached. Nobody does anything in writing. Things simply happen through no discernible human agency. You adopt this grammar naturally, the way you adopted everything else here, not through instruction, but through exposure, through survival. The system has rules, but only some of them are written. The written rules are in a handbook, 214 pages, last updated in 2019, printed on paper that has yellowed slightly at the edges. It covers things like the grievance procedure and the use of company vehicles and what constitutes a conflict of interest. These rules are quoted regularly and followed almost never. The unwritten rules are enforced with complete consistency. The first unwritten rule is problems are escalated upward only when they are too large to be concealed. Everything smaller than that is yours to absorb. The second unwritten rule is loyalty is measured not by what you say, but by what you don't say in rooms where it would have cost you something to say it. The third unwritten rule is never be the person who introduces bad news after 3 p.m. on a Friday. This is not because anything different will happen to the news, it's because you will become associated with it. The news and you will fuse in someone's memory, and you will carry it indefinitely. You know a man, you've known him since your 3rd year, who delivered a financial discrepancy report on a Friday at 4:15. The discrepancy was legitimate, documented, important. He was right. He is still, 4 years later, described by people in this building as the guy who caused the Q3 problem. He did not cause it, he found it, but that distinction is not operationally meaningful. You learn creative compliance in year 4. This is the practice of satisfying the letter of a directive while quietly preserving whatever the directive was designed to eliminate. You don't invent this. It already exists, fully formed, passed down through organizational memory like a gene for camouflage. A restructuring is announced. Headcount must be reduced by 12%. You restructure, you reclassify. 2 permanent positions become contract roles. 1 role becomes a shared responsibility distributed across 3 people who will absorb it without additional compensation because they are afraid. Headcount reduced, system preserved. Nobody lied, technically. The budget year runs from October to September. By August of every year, you are spending whatever remains, because unspent budget is read as evidence that you needed less, and next year you will be given less. So in August, you buy equipment that doesn't need replacing, commission reports that won't be read, book training sessions that will be canceled. You spend $38,000 in the final 3 weeks of year 7's fiscal cycle, and the expenditures are approved without comment, because everyone in this building is doing the same thing simultaneously. A brief synchronized flush of resources into the void, and then October arrives, and everyone begins the performance of fiscal restraint again. This is not corruption. Corruption would be simpler. This is just the system metabolizing itself, consuming its own tail to feed its own mouth. You are not a criminal here. You are a cell. You function as the system requires, and in doing so, you sustain it, and it sustains you, and you have long since stopped being able to articulate the difference.
It doesn't happen loudly. Your partner, or your closest friend, or your brother, depending on the specific geography of your life, begins to notice something in year 5. They don't name it immediately. They describe it as you seeming tired, then distant. Then, after a dinner where you spend 45 minutes on your phone and can't remember what was discussed, they use a different word, unreachable. You dispute this. You're sitting right here, you say. That's not what I mean, they say. And you know they're right, but knowing and having the capacity to change are not the same thing. And by year 7, you have stopped pretending they are. Your social world narrows the way rivers narrow before they go underground. Gradually, then suddenly, then it's just the channel left, dry and familiar and unrecognizable as the thing it used to be. You have colleagues. You have people you eat lunch with occasionally in the 12-minute window that remains after accounting for the walk, the queue, and the need to be back before your calendar fills again. These people know your name and your title and approximately what you manage. They do not know what you believe. They do not know what you were like before. This is not because they don't care, it's because the building doesn't require that information, and so it was never exchanged. And now there is a version of you that exists in this place that has no interior life visible to anyone around you. And you have, somewhere between year 5 and year 8, begun to suspect that version is winning. Sleep becomes functional. 7 hours, because 7 hours is the empirically validated minimum for sustained cognitive performance, which you need, not because sleep feels like rest. It stopped feeling like rest sometime around year 3. Now it's just a maintenance cycle. You close the system, you run the repair process, you reboot, you open again. You exercise on a schedule, you eat on a schedule. You respond to personal messages on a schedule. Sunday evenings, roughly 45 minutes, a window you have actually at some point begun to think of as your personal communications block. You notice this and feel something adjacent to shame, but not quite. More like recognition, like finding a sentence in a document that you know you wrote but don't remember writing. You are becoming efficient. You are becoming small. It doesn't announce itself. You are in a meeting, a standard Wednesday afternoon review, 17 people in a room designed for 12, the PowerPoint on slide 9 of 24, a bar chart comparing Q3 actuals to Q3 projections when you have the thought. The thought is not dramatic. It arrives the way most true things do, quietly in the middle of something else. The thought is, none of this has ever mattered. Not in the way you told yourself it did. Not in the way that justified the Friday nights and the unreturned calls and the small decisions that compounded over years into a posture, a shape, a way of moving through rooms. The bar chart on slide 9, you have seen this bar chart, or its functional equivalent, every quarter for 9 years. Sometimes the bars are taller, sometimes they are shorter. The meeting ends. The bars are different next quarter. The meeting happens again. You look at the people around the table. You have known most of them for years. You know their titles, their communication styles, their preferred escalation paths. You know who defers to whom and on what topics. You know the subtle grammar of this room. You do not know if any of them are happy. You have never asked. More precisely, and this is the thing that arrives alongside the first thought, the second thought, just as quiet and just as final, you have structured your entire life inside this building around the assumption that happiness is not a variable the system tracks, and so it is not a variable you need to track either. You sit with this thought for 47 minutes. The meeting ends. People gather their laptops and their notebooks and their disposable coffee cups. Someone makes a comment about the Q4 forecast. Someone else laughs, briefly, a professional laugh, short, dry, sufficient. You stand. You walk back to your office with the blinds that don't fully close. You sit at your desk. You look at the clock. It is 3:22 p.m. on a Wednesday. You have been here 9 years and 4 months. You have been performing a version of yourself for so long that you cannot cleanly locate the original underneath it. Not because it's gone, but because the performance has been so consistent, so practiced, so total, that the gap between the two has closed, not through authenticity, but through repetition. You have not become who you were pretending to be. You have simply forgotten what the pretending felt like. This is not a breakdown. There are no tears, there is no dramatic gesture, there is only the clock, the 3:22 p.m. light, the half-open blinds, the thought sitting there, settled and irrefutable. No one is coming for you. No one has ever been coming for you. You have been waiting, without consciously knowing you were waiting, for someone or something inside this structure to reach down and pull you upward into meaning. But the structure doesn't do that. The structure doesn't know your name. It knows your output. It knows your escalation rate and your budget compliance and your headcount ratios. It knows what you produce. It has never known who you are, and you built your life around it anyway. You do not quit that day. You sit. You finish the afternoon. You respond to 4 emails. You attend a 4:30 standing call. You say the right things. You are, to all observable metrics, completely fine. But something has shifted in a way that will not shift back. You leave in year 11, not dramatically. You do not storm out. You do not send a farewell email with coded resentment buried in the subtext. You submit your resignation on a Monday morning, 2 months' notice as handbook requires, and you are thanked professionally by 3 people in 3 separate meetings, each of which lasts approximately 12 minutes. There is a lunch. 7 people attend. You eat a sandwich you did not choose from a tray that was ordered from the same catering company that has serviced every internal event for the past 6 years. Someone says you'll be hard to replace. They mean this sincerely. You believe they mean it, but you know and they know that replacement has already begun. Your access credentials will be suspended by end of day on your last Friday. Your files will be transferred. Your email will route to your manager for 60 days, then deactivated. The out of office will read, "This individual is no longer with the organization. Please contact." On your last day, you carry a single cardboard box. It contains the clock, a phone charger, and a notebook that is mostly blank. You packed in 11 minutes. This, more than anything, tells you something about what you brought into the room versus what the room allowed you to keep. You walk out through the same glass door you walked through on the first cold morning 11 years ago. The lobby has been renovated since then. New flooring, the carpet adhesive smell replaced by something more neutral, more corporate damp. The badge reader is newer. There is a plant now near the security desk that was not there before. It is very green. It might be artificial. You do not examine it closely. The door closes behind you. Inside, at a desk that is now a different configuration, open plan, a hot desking system rolled out in year 9, a new person is sitting. 27, maybe 29, temporary badge clipped to a lanyard. The lanyard has the organization's logo on it. The person is reading an internal document they have received without much context, in a role that was explained to them in general terms, in a building where the printer on the left still jams on anything above 68 pages. No one has told them about the printer yet. They will find out. They will fix it. They will say nothing. The system hums. The fluorescent lights run their cycles. The quarterly reviews produce their bar charts. The budgets are consumed in August. The promotions are processed. The unwritten rules are observed without instruction. The meetings happen. The presentations slide to 9 of 24. You were a quarter-mile away, sitting in your car in the parking structure, the cardboard box on the passenger seat, the clock on top. 3:47 p.m., a Thursday. You think about the first morning, the cold, the recycled air, the badge that said visitor in red across the top, because that is always what you were here, a visitor who stayed long enough to forget they were visiting. You start the car. The building continues without you. It was always going to. The next person is already inside.